Hi, welcome to another episode of Harrison Hobbies. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Surefire Minimus headlamp. So the first Surefire headlamp was the Saint, and that was released about 8 years ago. It had a Fresnel lens on the front of it, which is a little different than today's headlamp, and it had a big battery pack on the back. And then a few years after the Saint was released, they came out with the Saint Minimus, which has the same form factor as this one. With your CR123 battery on one side, and then your rotary switch here on the other side. But both of those had a Fresnel lens on the front of them. They had pretty low power emitters. And so this one here is a little bit updated, and they've dropped the price quite a bit. So the Surefire Saint that we have here, by today's standards, still isn't very powerful. This maxes out at 300 lumens, versus a lot of headlamps you can get from some of the overseas brands like Phoenix and Nightcore that are pulling closer into 1200, 1500 lumens. But this one here has some cool features on it that we'll be diving into. So let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. All right, so we have the Surefire Minimus headlamp here. So let's do a quick walk around. So on here we have just a standard, Surefire calls it their max vision beam. It's just a reflector that's a little bit dimpled in there to give it a nice, more diffused beam pattern. And then as you would wear it on your head, typically you'd wear it in this orientation here. So on your right-hand side is going to be your power button, and it's not a clicky power button or anything. It's just a micro switch for on and off. So there's no detent whenever it's either on or off. And then on your left here is going to be your battery compartment. So we can open this up real quick. The front of it, or the battery lid here, is tethered with this little flexible plastic retainer here, band. And sometimes whenever you're trying to get this off, it ends up trying to take it with itself because it starts to bind. But once you get close to the end here, it's not usually too terrible. And that's what we got there. You got a pretty weak spring here, but again, this isn't like a rifle light or anything, so it doesn't really matter that that's a little bit lacking substance there. And then just standard tube. One thing to note is this flashlight will work with all your different battery kinds. So you got your standard 340 lithium ion batteries. This one just happens to be a 10energy. It fits right in there and it can close. Next we have, these were recommended by Surefire for a while. These are K2 Energy. So you could buy these batteries directly from Surefire, Surefire's website for a while. I don't know why they don't sell them anymore, but they're an American-made K2 Energy company, and these are an LiFePO4, so I believe they're lithium iron. So it's still a lithium battery. It's same 4.2 volt max, running at like a 3.65, I think on this one is kind of the medium, and then that fits in right there. And the last is going to be your Surefire CR123 battery, the standard disposable ones that typically come with their lights. So just for the sake of this demonstration, we'll put this Surefire battery back in, and then we'll close this. In the event that you go through a pressure change or anything where this would be hard to get off, you do end up with a screw cutout on the front here. And so in the event that that's hard to get off, you end up having your metal adjustment clamp here. And so if you were to make that a little bit longer here, you could in theory get in here and open and close it. So that's kind of a nice feature there. And then the last feature of this light here is going to be its mode selection. So the mode selector here is going to be one press turns it on. And so now if we turn it away from us here, you can see it starting to, we'll point it here, but you can see a low mode, and then as we turn the knob, each click, it ends up getting a little bit brighter. The camera's adjusting its settings to kind of compensate, but then a couple of other features here. The first one being if you turn it quickly from low to high or high to low, you don't have to go through all 13 modes. A quick turn here goes to full, and a quick turn away goes to the lowest setting. And then I'll put this next to here so you can kind of hear the clicky. So the clickiness here, that was one of my first concerns here, was I was worried that it was going to be kind of mushy, but it's really, really positive here. And you can kind of feel a little bit of feedback there. It's very smooth, but you still get a lot of positive feedback on here. The headband here is just cheap foam. It's better than the neoprene that Streamlight uses on their headlamps, but it's still, they didn't give you any extras, but it is just a velcroed on. And then lastly, it's a thick webbing here. It's probably about an inch thick. And then lastly, this is a PA6 structure here. If you were to have to remove the headlamp for any reason, you'd end up having to drive out these two pins here. And then that would release this inner piece of plastic here that's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see it a little bit. And then the headlamp could be removed, but I don't know, not sure any scenario where you'd actually need to do that. Just for calibration, the fence line is about 40 feet away from where we're standing right now, and the distance between the house on the left and the shop on the right is 10 feet. We have an ISO of 6400, a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second, and an aperture of 2.8, and this is pretty well replicating what the human eye sees. So we're going to start out with the headlamp. So this is going to be our lowest setting. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then that's maxed out. Well, this was a review of the Surefire Minimus headlamp. I believe that this is still a pretty competent headlight even in 2020 here. It provides a really diffuse beam. It's incredibly useful light. It's very comfortable to wear even for longer periods because the weight of the headlamp here is actually sucked in quite a bit towards your head versus some of the other ones where it's cantilevered out further and kind of bounces if you're running. Surefire is still kind of holding true to their principles that they charge about $1 per lumen. These still go for around $170 on Amazon and Optics Planet and any other website there. I think the MSRP from Surefire is $200, so that's not too far away. But overall, it's a pretty good headlamp. I find it incredibly functional and durable. I've had this one now for about a year, and I use it quite a bit for work around the house and whenever we are going camping, night hikes, anything like that. And it's been pretty good. I get a few hours of battery life on the standard Surefire or Energizer or whatever brand of CR123, and on the two lithiums you get a little lower runtime just because they have a cutoff that's quite a bit higher than the lithium, which could go to full depletion without any harm because it's disposable. Again, there are much cheaper options, probably, you know, with a higher CRI on the LED, certainly much brighter than 300 lumens. But if Surefire's your thing, then I would certainly pick this up. Thank you for watching, and check back soon for more videos.